Okay, so hi, I am back. This is Jewel here. And today, what I want to talk about is how I brought divorce, or I should say, the topic of divorce to my children. So, I seen something the other day, and it was or it was a reel on Instagram rather, and a lot of people don't know how to tell their children. And so, um, one thing, like my children were different ages at the time of my divorce. And I think my oldest was, I think she was like 14 or 15, maybe. And she was old enough to actually see the dynamic of what was going on. So I believe that she knew the direction we were heading in. And I think she was even a bit relieved, once we did decide to part ways. As far as the other children, I didn't exactly tell them, but I was in a situation where I didn't feel safe. And so I didn't feel emotionally safe. I didn't feel physically safe. And so I just left. And that was the best I could do in the moment, of course, because I was in survival mode. So for the children, it felt like, I guess, like a vacation for them. And yeah, it was a nice distraction because I went to my mom's who lives out of state. So it was a very nice distraction for them while I gained some strength for myself because, I was in a situation where, like I said, I was not feeling safe. And so my middle two children didn't really have to do much explaining to them in the beginning. And then my youngest two, they were just like, they weren't even really old enough to realize what was going on. So I think my oldest one was the one who needed the most explaining, but like I said, she knew what was going on and she could see for herself, what was happening. And so my recommendation for anybody who is going through like a divorce or a separation and the kids have questions, like even sometimes my son, who is now 8 at the time of this recording, he will ask me, like, well, why aren't you guys married anymore? And I just say, it just didn't work out. And I said, sometimes, moms and dads are better apart. And he says, oh, okay. But I never bash his father. I never say anything negative to him. I just tell him that it simply didn't work out. And he said, okay. Um, my other children don't really ask that much, but I definitely would not recommend like bad mouthing your spouse to your children, even if they are, I mean, of course, we have like emotionally charged thoughts towards that person, but I would not recommend like bashing your spouse or just giving your children too many details because, for one, your children are going to have a different experience with their other parent. And, your children, and there could be so many different situations or scenarios with this, but, your children have a completely different experience with their parents. And sometimes we try to convince them of our perspective and our experience when that's not what they're feeling. And so they get conflicted, because most children, they love both of their parents, and even if their other parent is not the best parent, right? We still have to allow them to decide that and to just, yeah, come to their own conclusion of that. Um, and you don't have to convince them. You really don't. So my priority was my safety. But yeah, back to the recommendations. I also like if they do have questions or if you have older children. And I feel like sometimes with our children, we gaslight them when it's like we tell them like everything's fine and everything is not fine. So it's okay to give your children, um, I guess, information at their level, like if you have older children or if you have adult children, you can, just keep it real with what is going on. But yes, if you have adult children, but yeah, if you have adult children, I think you should be fully transparent with them about what's going on. And you don't have to, of course, give them the details of everything that's transpired. However, they do deserve to know what's going on. And when I say adult children, I mean like teenagers. Okay, my bad or my storage keeps well, I need to get some storage on my phone. Or I need to what am I saying? I don't know. I need to get some things off my phone onto the computer to create some storage. So anyway, yeah, as I was sharing, yeah, children they deserve to know. And it's okay to tell your children that, if they ask you, are things okay? It's okay to tell them, like, mom's not okay or dad's not okay right now, but I will be. And yeah, it's just a really difficult thing to talk to your children about because you carry a lot of guilt for the decision that's been made. You carry a lot of shame. I will tell you, like, I really believed a lot of the lies that people told me about divorce. People told me that my children was going to be all messed up. People told me, I don't know, they say like children of divorce, they, I don't know, they just don't do well. And a lot of people that I have worked with as clients, they will say, I'll tell them like, or I'll ask them, what is the greatest thing that you've had to forgive? A lot of times people say, my parents being divorced. And yeah, it's just really difficult because even as a parent, like you want the best for your children. You don't want to quote like mess your kids up. I don't know how you do that anyway, especially if you're giving your kids your best, but I think if you gave your marriage your best, then that's the best you can do. And sometimes giving your children your best involves, not or being divorced. It involves being divorced. And I want people to understand that perspective because a lot of people say like, a two-parent home is better than one, but is a two-parent home that's toxic, is that still better than one? I don't think so because it sets the standard for children that this is how life is, this is what relationships are like. And I think when, not, I think, I know when you're able to know when enough is enough and you're able to walk away, that is a beautiful example of teaching your children healthy boundaries and also just really energetic boundaries because not only have you've made the decision Yeah, so I think that telling your children or sharing it with them is a very sensitive topic, and each child is different, so they have different responses. I wouldn't say some children do well, especially if one of their parents is leaving the home. Of course, there's going to be some resistance, and they're just going to have their own experience with it. And so, just giving yourself a lot of grace and compassion, giving a lot of grace and compassion to your children, and just understanding that this is a process. It's going to be a lot of things that you need to grieve. Hey, can y'all be quiet? But yeah, it's going to be a process. In your room, please. Thank you. But yeah, there's a lot of grief involved, and it's a transition for everybody. I know I carried a lot of grief when my children weren't able to see their father every day, And there was a point where they shared that they were sad, and I said, well, because sometimes their father would leave for work before they woke up, and then he would return when they were already asleep. So I said, well, sometimes you guys don't even see them. And one of my daughters said, but we know that he's here, or we know that he was here. And so, yeah, that made me kind of sad. So I would also say, make sure you hold space for your children and their emotions, because you might feel like their dad is a POS, but they don't feel that way. They may love their dad or their mom. Again, they don't see it how we see it. So I think it's very important to acknowledge your children's feelings. And that's tough to do, not to acknowledge their feelings, but when you're hurting yourself, it can be a challenge. It can. But also, don't abandon yourself, don't abandon your feelings as well, but also hold space for your children and their emotions. A lot of times I did have to hold space with my children when they cried a lot. They cried during our custody exchanges. That was really tough on me. But I had to follow through on my decision. I had to keep walking. And I will tell you that it was a transition, but they're doing fine now. Children, they do adjust well. And yeah, they look forward to going to see their father, and they also look forward to coming back to mom. So just know that it's a transition, and there are going to be some bumps in the road of the transition, and that's okay. That's okay. Just make sure that you give yourself the support you need. Make sure you're giving yourself, some self-care, whatever that looks like for you. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself mentally, you're taking care of yourself emotionally and physically, of course, because grief it uses a lot of energy. And at the same time, you may be starting over or rebuilding, but I want you to remember your why and keep your commitments, make commitments to yourself and keep those commitments to yourself. Because again, there was a why. There's a reason you left. And you can still honor your children's feelings, and you can still keep your commitment to yourself. Because sometimes when you are in a marriage that's toxic, that's debilitating, that feels like it's smothering, You cannot be your best self for your children or yourself. You can't even be your best self for yourself. So just remember that. And yeah, you can't pour from an empty cup. So if you have any video suggestions or anything that you would like to hear more on, I'd be happy to share. But my goal here is to help people from my experience. And also, yeah, I'm a coach and I love helping women remember their worth and reclaim their joy for life. And also, break free from codependent relationships, codependent tendencies. And the reason I know this is because that was me. So if you, yeah, I don't know, what am I saying? Ma'am, close the door. Thanks. Yeah, but if you have any questions or anything, yeah, just put it in the comments or let me know. Like I said, I'm happy to share. But I'm Jewel, and I'm reminding you of the gem you are. Thanks, guys.